with the AFC West for this go round. And I right have in front of me, this is where we're going to start. We have the Denver Broncos. I picked the Denver Broncos to be third in this division. And once I get through this whole division, I will give you my order where I think these guys, well, these teams will be placed in that division. So, Denver Broncos, why do I have them in third? Well, for one, quarterback issues. Also in this division, you have the Kansas City Chiefs. We all know about their quarterback. You have the Los Angeles Chargers. We also know about their quarterback. And then you have the Raiders. You know a little bit about their quarterback, but he's been up and down last few seasons, had some injuries. So we'll get into that when we get into the LA Raiders. But for right now, we are definitely talking Denver Broncos. And I picked them third because, like I said, I think they have some talent on the defensive end that will keep them in a lot of games, that may even help them win some games. Just looking at their schedule. And the tricky thing, though, is, which has been going on for them, for the past couple years now, is the quarterback situation. They just can't seem to get it right. And ironically, we used to talk about the Cleveland Browns, about their draft picks and how they couldn't get things right and all of their issues. Now, it's becoming to be a part of the NFL in general. And now it's just Denver's turn, who have been dealing, like I said, with this issue for several years now. And it just doesn't seem to be working out for them right now. So I think they will struggle in some games. Again, that offense just doesn't move me in any way. So again, I think they will struggle with some games. Again, their defense, I think, may keep them in some, may even win a couple for them. But I think they'll finish third in the division. If they somehow sneak into the playoffs, more than likely, I feel like it would be a wild card, and it would be tough because they would have to go on the road and probably go to a team that has some offense, has better talent on offense, especially at that quarterback position, who would probably overcome them in the playoffs. So that is your Denver Broncos breakdown. So we're going to move on, and we are going to get to Kansas City Chiefs. I paused for a second because, like I said, when I started out with the Denver Broncos, I told you we know who this quarterback is. And last season they were so close, and just couldn't get over the hump. So I am looking for another good season for them, Kansas City. I have Kansas City winning this division again. I just hope that Andy Reid has found something in his team, has found something in himself where he can finally get over the hump. And it's always the same things that I say about Andy Reid. His adjustment factor for me is like, it's pretty bad, where I think that he can get guys up for games, prepare them for games, for the very beginning of games. But I think his in-game adjustments are subpar, just leave it there, they're subpar for the type of coach that he is. Like the situation I said when he was here with the Eagles and then he ultimately got fired, it wasn't a bad thing. Like, we lived and died with his poor or his subpar adjustments within games. But he was a very good coach, still is a very good coach. And I think his lack of adjustments or lack of adjusting is hindering him from moving on to possibly getting to the Super Bowl and winning it again. Like, he got here with the Eagles, just couldn't win it. I think sometimes he gets stagnant on offense, and sometimes I think he does too much of the same thing on defense. So I hope that Pat Mahomes can carry them again, which I think he will because of the talent that he has. I just hope that Andy Reid has finally begun to see something and decide, like, look, I got to start trying to make some adjustments. So, again, I picked the Kansas City Chiefs to win this division. And like I said, hopefully there will be some improvements on that coaching side. Now, the Oakland Raiders, the story of HBO's TV series, 4 football teams. The name escapes me right now. I just can't think of it right now. But I feel this way because of the saga with the Antonio Brown situation. And if you backtrack and you look back when this trade happened or this signing happened, you immediately thought that it's going to make them a little bit better than they were last year because of the talent that they had with Antonio Brown. Then these things pop up within the last couple weeks. And like I said, I'll give them a pass for the foot issue, wearing the improper shoes in the cryogenic chamber. A slight pass for that, because you should have known. Obviously, you've done it before, so you know what kind of shoes to wear in the cryogenic chamber. And the second part of that, where the cryogenic chamber was. Was it in your house? Was it at a facility? The staff there should have reminded you or should have noticed that you had on improper footwear for that. So I give you a slight pass. Like I said, that could be 50-50. So I give you a slight pass on that one. But this helmet issue, and I get it from playing sports as a younger kid, younger adult, young kid. I get it. And I also understand that you have things that you wear. You have a helmet that you get comfortable with, you get accustomed to. You get a certain type of shoulder pads. You get a certain fit on your jersey. Things of that nature. I totally get it. But it's a little bit bigger than that right now with this issue. And it's all about safety. And we've seen what has happened with so many players. The brain injuries, the people that have died, the CET, and the concussions. We've seen it the last few years. So I somewhat applaud the NFL for getting a grip on it and trying to get a grip on it and trying to be proactive with it within their safety procedures. But come on, Antonio. The helmet is not safe. They're telling you this. They're being tested by the NFL, the team that pays you, the team that the business or the office that pays you. These people have tested these instruments, and it's to their standing. So they have your safety issues in interest. They have all their players' safety issues in interest. And you making a big stink has brought a light that should not have been brought to the Oakland Raiders with you being there. With you being there with the Oakland Raiders, it should be a bright light. It should be a light of progression. Hard Knocks, now I remember, is the TV show HBO, which is featuring the Oakland Raiders this year. So, again, this light should be a beaming light on the Raiders, like showing some improvement, showing some growth, progression, showing that we are going to do what we need to do to get this franchise back to being a winning franchise for years to come. But now you've pushed the management into a situation where it's pretty much almost now a ultimatum coming. Like I said, I read the quote, or I gave you the quote earlier in our news and updates from the GM, and you've got a coach and a GM out there right now that are for you when you're doing what you're supposed to do. And I'm not saying you just follow every rule to the letter, but if you're in that organization and you do what you're supposed to do, you're usually fine with those two guys. And I'm speaking of Mike Mayock and John Gruden. John Gruden is all for his players, but I think when you cross the line, I think he leaves you out there by yourself. Mike Mayock seems to be a no-nonsense GM, where I think, like I said, he's beginning to reach that point where he's going to give this ultimatum. And it's sad because, like I said, this should be almost a turnaround season for the Oakland Raiders. I mean, arguably, I look at this and And I put them in third because of this situation, because of the uncertainty of this situation. But arguably, if you look at this division and you look at the rosters on paper, you could very arguably say that the Oakland Raiders could be second in this division. And some people are probably going to say, well, why you say second? Still, yes, I know the Seahawks are still there, but it's not the same Legion of Boom that it was before. It's not the same Russell Westbrook. I mean, he's still a dynamic player, but he has aged some. It's not the same talent level around him on the offensive end anymore. So, Antonio, you can get your together. You guys might can do something out there in Oakland. Like I said, arguably best receiver in the NFL today. So, hopefully he can get his stuff together and they can proceed on with the season and do some things and make some noise in the NFC West. And finally, NFC West, Los Angeles Chargers, team that I right now picked as second in this division. Drew Brees. I'm sorry, not Drew Brees. I am so sorry. Phillip Rivers. Very, very good quarterback. I'm going to say should be Hall of Famer once his career is over. And we know his stats. We know his record. Seen him play. We know what he does. They've got some injury issues over there. They have a holdout issue over there as well. But I think them picking up where they left off last year with the talent level that they have, the quarterback that they have, the coaching staff is pretty good as well. I think that they will make some noise again this year. There are people who are putting them deep in the playoffs, if not in the Super Bowl this year as well. So I think they're going to be neck and neck pretty much all season long in the division race with Kansas City. I think they have right now the best chance of supplanting Kansas City if anyone does in this division. So we will definitely keep a lookout for that. So finally, AFC West, my order: Kansas City Chiefs, Los Angeles Chargers, Denver Broncos, and rounding it out, the Oakland Raiders, who arguably could change this if my guy Antonio gets his act together. So, like I said, they are the talk of the NFL right now. Definitely check them out on Hard Knocks HBO series and keep up with them. We'll talk about more, I'm sure, throughout the season and throughout the rest of training camp before the regular season starts. So now we are going to move into our NFC West preview. And I'm going to go with just like I did with them. The first team that I'm going to give you a little bit about, the Arizona Cardinals, who I picked to be last place in this division. Again, uncertainty with that quarterback situation. They drafted Kyler Murray. I think might have been a good pick for them as well, because you need to start somewhere in your rebuild. They still have Larry Fitzgerald, the elder statesman, but I watched them play last week. That offense is not pretty. The defense struggles. It's going to be a long season for Arizona. It's going to be a long, tough season. First season, rookie season for Kyler Murray. I just hope that they can analyze some things throughout this season and see where their holes are, see what they need to do to get better. But again, I have them in last place in this division. It's going to be a long, tough season for Arizona. Next team up, the LA Rams, the team who I actually have winning this division. I think they are the cream of the crop in this division right now. Just had a trip to the Super Bowl. Did not win it, but they got there. They've been deep into the playoffs the last few years, and they've been making a lot of noise the last few years. So I think, again, like I said, cream of the crop for this league. But again, as I tell Frank all the time when I'm here, because of the way they played throughout the playoffs, and then finally, ultimately, in that Super Bowl, I'm still, for me, the jury's still out on Jared Goff. he's done some great things so far, yes, but he hasn't shown me that he's the guy that will really go out there and just win a game for you. You know, he had the opportunities in the Super Bowl, didn't look so well. So again, hopefully he's matured a little bit. They can improve on some things. Hopefully Gurley will be healthy for them to help out in that. And their defense, you know, is again somewhat the backbone of that team. You know, their offense is electric. It is exciting, but you can't take away from their defense, who the last 2 years started off a little shaky, but picked it up as they progressed throughout the season, and definitely when they needed to, they picked it up. Ultimately, like I said, they were outplayed in the Super Bowl, didn't win it, but you know, for all intents and purposes during the regular season, that defense picked up when it needed to pick up. So hopefully they can adjust some things on offense to, for lack of a better phrase, take some of the excitement away and get some, I don't know, some moxie, I guess, or some swag back, and get Jared Goff to the point where he is the franchise quarterback that they expect him to be, and possibly he can get out there and win some games for them. So again, yeah, LA Rams, you know, some issues there. We'll see what happens with them and their young, exciting coach in that offense. The San Francisco 49ers, who I have third place in this division. Frank is probably listening. So what's up, Frank? Baldy's probably tuned in. This is your guys. Again, Frank, I tell you all the time, I'm still not sold on Garoppolo. I have to see him play. You gave him a nice paycheck, but now he's got to perform. And again, I'm not 100% sure. You guys had a pretty decent draft. I'll watch your game tonight and see if there's anything else that I see to make me change. But again, I think that quarterback situation is going to bode heavily on your season, and I hope that Garoppolo can come back and be the quarterback that you guys paid him to be, that you expected him to be when you paid him. Also, Beathard, I mentioned to Frank when he was here last week that I noticed some things in Beathard, and I kind of referenced it to the Eagles and the Nick Foles situation, whereas you have a backup quarterback that you really don't have to do anything with him, just plug and play. You know, he's there, he knows the offense. More importantly, he's not going to go out there and do anything extra. He's not going to go out there and try to win the game for you. He's not going to lose the game for you. He will definitely manage the game for you. So hopefully you won't have to see a lot of Beathard. And like I said, for you guys' sake, for the money that you put out, for the aspirations and expectations that you have, I hope Jimmy G works out for you guys. Finally, NFC West, Seattle Seahawks, who I have second in this division. Like I said, the Russell Wilson factor is still in play. But again, that defense is not the Legion of Boom that it is. They still have some parts from that are very good. Bobby Wagner, very, very good. They have some other pieces on that defense that are very good. They have some talent on offense. And like I said, that Russell Wilson factor is still in play. So with that, I have my order for the NFC West is Los Angeles Rams, Seattle Seahawks, San Francisco 49ers, and finally the Arizona Cardinals. That being said, folks, it is now 11:45, 45 minutes past the 11 a.m. hour, 15 minutes to the noontime hour. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about we're going to talk some more NFL, but I want to get into this situation with the Jay-Z and the NFL partnership. As you heard, I posted, as you've seen it, we will definitely get into that on the other side. It's your boy D. I will see you in the next few minutes. And the NFL, who have partnered for this cause for social injustice, in which Colin Kaepernick took a stand for and is no longer in the NFL for. Ironically, it is the 3-year anniversary of his first kneel, and this has come about. So, before I get into that deeply, I also want to give a shout out to a couple friends that have tuned in. 8 Howard Fiddler, thanks for tuning in, chiming in. Joe Richmond, always tuning in, chiming in. Thank you for that. David Fuller in tune, timed in. Thank you guys for tuning in. We are back again, YouTube Live again, folks. YouTube Live. So get over there to SportsRap TV, check this out, check me out, and you can see what's going on and you can hear what's going on. If you can't get on it, you can tune in at heat100radio.com. Click on, press the play button, and you can hear everything Sports Rap and everything Heat 100 Radio. So again, we have, as you know, we have this partnership, recent partnership with the NFL and Jay-Z, and it's supposed to be, or it's being presented as the next phase for the protest and things of that nature. And I was here last Sunday, and I sat in on the Jack Lowe's Experience, and one of the things that they talked about on that show, was some of the injustices and things of that nature, and how a lot of these things play out, and about the protesting. And I chimed in, and what I said was something that I heard, and I think it was a very, very valid point. We can protest all we want, but what do we do after the protest? And we can't just protest with all of our angry folk or all of our somewhat angry folk. We have to, if you will, dumb it down some, and we have to incorporate everyone that has an issue with any of these injustices. Black, white, Hispanic, whoever. We have to come together. It's kind of like that, like the movie, what was it? Soul Food. When Big Mama said, you know, with the hand apart, they can easily get in between and do whatever they need to do to separate us. But if we keep that fist tight, it's a hard break. It's a hard break to, you know, to unravel that fist. So we have to be strategic in it. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I'm completely on board with this partnership, but I think that Jay-Z has that moxie, has that connect, if you will, to be able to sit in those boardrooms and possibly change something. Maybe he can get in there and maybe get the NFL to listen to some of the things that he says. I mean, you know, if you read the reports, you always get the back and forth out the story. And talking about the story today, one of the things that people are harping on is the fact that within this partnership, Jay-Z and Roc Nation get almost sole selection on who performs throughout the NFL season and during home Super Bowl. So a lot of people had protested. A lot of African American artists or prominent artists had protested and not performed and declined invitations to perform at the Super Bowl halftime show due to Colin Kaepernick's treatment, if you will. So now Jay-Z has this partnership. Apparently it has upset Eric Reed, who was a friend, a teammate who was in this thing from the very beginning with Colin Kaepernick, who knelt with him in the very beginning. But I think on the other side that there is a point that is being made by Jay-Z and Roc Nation, where maybe they won't listen to you guys because you're the players, and when it comes down to it, we sign your checks, so we can do certain things to keep you in line, you know, before you start losing money, or we can do certain things that'll hurt you in a certain way as far as your pockets, and you know, things have been illegal, i.e. Colin Kaepernick is not back in the league because he was a player. Maybe, just maybe, Jay-Z being outside of that player status, being a businessman, being a billionaire, he might be able to get through to some of these NFL execs or some of these board members that they have in that building, in that room. So don't immediately get upset with the fact that there's a partnership now between Jay-Z, who is very, very popular, or let's say extremely popular within the African American community and business community, when he decides that he wants to partnership with the NFL. it could be him kicking in the door or sneaking in the door where we had no one else in the door, or we getting to the table now where we really didn't have anyone at that table who can get in there and do some things, a mover, a shaker, who could possibly sit at that table and do some of the things that we have been talking about or imagining happening within this whole 3-year time frame. Like I said, it's been 3 years since Colin Kaepernick first knelt. Hasn't been back in the NFL since. Hasn't had any workouts or anything like that since. And things have, on the face value or on the surface, seem to die down a little bit. But as we see, there were things going on behind the scenes, and now we have this emerging partnership between Jay-Z, Rock Nation, and the NFL. And again, like I said, we didn't really have much. And again, this is just my opinion. I'm looking at it trying to be positive about the whole situation. And like I said, it could be a plus to have Jay-Z at this table. Like I said, they kind of have a strong hold or some type of hold on the players. And we've seen it, like I just mentioned, we see it with Colin Kaepernick. We see it all the time. Players do certain things, they either get fined or they get suspended or the team gets punished or whatever. They have a hold on the players. There's not enough outside people who are, I'm going to go on a limb and say, willing to jump into this shark-infested water with the mind frame that I'm here for not just me, but I'm here to be the voice that my people can't be. And I'm trying to make some segue into this situation and see and bring it to light, make you guys see a very clear picture, as opposed to what you see that you call clear, which is still kind of hazy. But now we have somebody sitting at that table that can clear that picture up, you know? So hopefully and possibly this could be a good thing. It could work out. It could possibly work out to be a good thing. So let's see how it plays out. We'll definitely talk about it later on down the road, but it's early stages. So let's see what happens. Season hasn't even started yet. Still in early stages. Like I said, we'll see what happens. I will keep my eye on the story and bring you back information as I get it. Now, secondly, to wrap up this NFL segment, as you know, I reported last week, and you've probably seen it, the NFL Players Association has issued work stoppage guides to the players in the NFL. The current collective bargaining agreement expires March of 2021. So the NFL has decided to keep players in mind, allegedly attempt to help players. Some of the things that are highlighted in this work stoppage guide or things, it says the NFLPA has issued a work stoppage guide to its players to help them prepare in the event of a strike or lockout following the 2020 season. All right. So here is what I found from ESPN, who apparently got a copy of this work stoppage guide. And these are some of the things that were highlighted in what the NFL is attempting to help, or how they're intending to help these players, like I said, in the event of a work stoppage, a lockout, or a strike. And they say that much of the guide is focused on helping players manage their money in advance of or in case of a strike or lockout. Okay, so we've seen all the 30 for 30s. We've seen the one broke. We've seen all the stories and all the stuff, information on how a lot of these pro athletes, and I'm just lumping them in together real quickly, how they go broke in periods of time. So apparently the NFL is taking a step in the right direction and issuing this guide, not so much scaring these guys or hinting or tipping their hat or threatening, but keeping their players' interest in mind. Or could it be keeping the NFL's interest in mind. We would never know because, like I always say, we're not the flies on the wall. But when you hear this kind of thing, you can automatically think that, or almost think that it could go on either side of the fence. So here are some of those highlighted points from this NFL work stoppage, this NFL Players Association work stoppage guide. So one of the things is save at least half of each paycheck, if not more. If your current expenses are too high to save this much, you should look at ways to change your spending habits and reduce financial commitments. Try cooking at home instead of eating out as much. Take care of major home instead of buying for now. Find renters for your unoccupied homes or bedrooms. Consider selling a car you have not driven in the past 6 months. Avoid signing a long-term lease on any rental property that you rarely use. Learn to say no, or at least not now, to friends and family asking for money. Consider selling clothes you have not worn in a year on Poshmark, ThreadUp, or Tradesy. So, those are some of the points that were highlighted in this stop workage article. The stop workage guide. So, some of these things are basic stuff that you could give to the average Joe, the average person that works a 9 to 5. Try cooking at home instead of eating out as much. Take care of major home repairs. Consider selling a car if you have not driven it in the past 6 months. Save at least half of your paycheck, if not more. These are things that we tell regular people. These are things that if you have kids that are teenagers or young adults that work, we tell our kids. These are things that we tell each other as regular working adults. So for it to be a big issue with the NFL, I'm not impressed. I think a lot of these guys should have better people around them. I also refer people to the TV show on HBO with The Rock, Ballers. You get a better understanding of what these guys attract. As far as I'm talking about these guys, I'm talking about the players. What type of deals and business opportunities or things that are just people that are just attracted, that they just attract, that sometimes or a lot of times don't have their best interest in play. They're just using them for the financial pocketbook or the financial purse that they apparently are or that they appear to be. So, this work stoppage guide, I think is clear cut, right to the point. You might say it's a little harsh. And again, with these guys making the money that they make, it's going to be a lot harder for them to do some of these things. And some of these things, like I said, are just regular things that you tell the average Joe. It's a lot easier for one of us, and I'm clumping myself into the average Joes, it's a lot easier for one of us to say, listen, I need to do this. Look, I got to start taking my lunch to work for the next month or so and save this money. Or I got all these clothes in my house that I'm not wearing. I never wear. They're taking up space. I need to get rid of them. Instead of just giving them away, donating them, I can sell them on Tradesy, Etsy, ThreadUp, Threadsy, or whatever. So but with the lifestyle that a lot of these players, these professional athletes live, it's a little bit more difficult to part with some of their things. Like, for instance, they say sell one of your cars you haven't driven in 6 months. Just hypothetical, you may have some of these guys who might say, well, it's a reason I didn't drive it for 6 months. It's a sports car. I live in so-and-so, and there's no need for me to drive a sports car in this type of weather. So that's the reason I haven't driven it in 6 months. Okay, or I'm not here as much, so I don't drive. And with that being said, just always be on the lookout for stuff like this, man. This is stuff that you can do in your regular life as a regular Joe, as I like to say. But again, I think it would be a little bit more difficult for these pro athletes because of the money that they make and the lifestyles that they live. It would be a little bit more difficult for them to start partying I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, we're going to wrap this thing up today and talk a little bit more sports. We'll see you on the other side. Sports Rap, Heat 100 Radio, Heat100radio.com. Go check us out.